Half the population of the world experiences early romantic love as an altered mental state, known as limerence. You'll know this state if you've ever been drawn to someone with overwhelming desire. You wanted them more than you've ever wanted anything. Nothing else in life really compares to the extraordinary natural high of limerence. It really feels like you're walking on air, at least at first. But highs that high often end with a crash. There's a dark side to limerence. It can become an obsession. In this video, I'll show you 7 signs that you've been in a state of limerence for too long so that it's turned toxic, and how to recover your emotional freedom. Hi, my name is Tom Bellamy. I'm a neuroscientist and writer, and I blog all about limerence at livingwithlimerence.com. I'm also the author of the book Smitten, which explains what limerence is, how neuroscience can help us make sense of it, and how to recover from it. Right, no sense wasting time. Sign number 1 that limerence is too far gone is when desire becomes craving. In the first flush of limerence euphoria, desire for the other person feels ecstatic. Your whole state of mind is transformed. As one of the commenters on my blog, Nissor, puts it, "Oh, that energy that makes you turbocharged. It's so pleasurable, one feels on cloud 9. It lasted for a few weeks, maybe a month and a half. The world smiled at me, and I smiled back at it. Everything was colourful and beautiful. I felt super joyful." That feeling makes you seek out the person that you're infatuated with, your limerent object, because it's so rewarding. The thrill of excitement that you feel when you're with them is irresistible. You want nothing more than to form an intimate bond, and they seem to offer the promise of bliss. But if you stay in this state for too long, that thrilling desire begins to change. If there is uncertainty about the bond, maybe caused by barriers or indecision, or because they're acting unpredictably, desire transforms into craving. You want them, but not because you're seeking rewards, but because you need relief from the insistent nagging craving. I'm fighting my addiction to texting limerent object today and doing okay, but man, do I feel strung out. It's hard to concentrate on tasks I'm working on. You just feel repeated surges of wanting that spur you into checking their social media or sending a text or seeking them out. I've blocked his social media, only to crave seeing his face and unblock him hours later. Nothing I do seems to lessen my feelings for him. And that transition is a sign that your dopamine reward system has become oversensitized. The motivating drive has escalated out of control. Wanting becomes a constant state. It's not really goal-directed anymore. The delirious pleasure of connection has been replaced by an intrusive background hum of craving. Reward-seeking becomes relief-seeking. This transition often goes hand in hand with the second sign of toxic limerence, a loss of self-control. Our brains have highly sophisticated systems for assessing rewards and understanding the wider implications of seeking that reward, and then intervening to override desire for hazardous rewards. Unfortunately, that executive feedback system is weakened during long-term limerence. The way that this feels is a weird combination of powerlessness and secret satisfaction. You know you can't resist, but you don't really care because a part of you wants to fail. That's what addiction is like. A distant intellectual voice urges you to stop acting so recklessly. But in the moment, you just fundamentally don't care. Your impulse control is suspended. All that matters is the longing. I think very rationally and take a long time to weigh decisions. So I do that and decide there is something I have to say no to, for a host of excellent reasons. Then I go to my limerent object, she asks me about it, and I say yes. It's especially annoying that she doesn't have to insist at all, and no amount of convincing myself before seems to help. It's like the executive control part of your brain has been sedated. Your mental CEO is on vacation, sipping pina coladas and laughing as you make a fool of yourself. And in fact, that is pretty much exactly what has happened. In addiction, feedback from the prefrontal cortex to regulate the out-of-control wanting drive is desensitized. When you've been limerent for too long, your self-control is literally physiologically compromised. Okay, sign number 3. Daydreams turn intrusive. Early on, thinking about the limerent object is lovely. Hours can be spent in reverie, daydreaming about being with them, remembering good times that you had together, or fantasizing about the future. Now, sadly, like most other positive aspects of limerence, this pleasure can sour. Once you pass the tipping point into fixation, those delightful daydreams can transform into intrusive thoughts. From the moment you wake, thoughts of your limerent object break into your consciousness, wreck your concentration, and make it hard to focus on anything else. I think about him when I wake up in the morning, when I go to bed at night, and I have conversations with him in my head all day long, replaying or anticipating encounters that will not happen. Most of the time, the thoughts are involuntary and exhausting. So the experience shifts from seeking some second-hand bliss by imagining being with them to insistent distracting thoughts that you can't control and that wear you down. And sometimes you don't even get a break at night. Many limerents report having anxiety dreams about their limerent object that disturb their sleep too. Okay, sign number 4, the highs are lower. Early on, a smile, a laugh, even just the contented company of your limerent object feels blissful. It's a lesson that you learn well. This person is a source of euphoria, and I want more. Unfortunately, those giddy thrills don't last. The simple pleasures of being with them no longer trigger the same delight. You build some tolerance. The flirty hints and tantalizing hope are no longer giving you that same rush. You need stronger stuff. And at this point, limerents often start to escalate their boundary-pushing behaviors. Jokes become more sexualized, hints of romantic interest become more obvious. It was like a bad movie. Literally, the conversation stopped and silence fell just as I declared to LO, "You should be careful what you promise. You know how dirty my mind is." Everyone at the table just stared at me, then laughed. It's a bitter irony that as the wanting drive of dopamine sensitizes, it can also become uncoupled from the liking mechanisms in the reward centers of the brain. So dopamine is still being released to motivate reward seeking, but it no longer causes the same pleasure response. Liking is deadened. So you anticipate euphoria, but you only get fleeting relief, and that makes you escalate your reward seeking in a futile cycle that becomes a behavioral addiction. Now, piling on the irony, the next sign of toxic limerence is that the lows are lower too. Early limerence comes with big mood swings. The highs are so high, but there's always a crash, always pain afterwards. I just want to feel normal again, but I can't untangle myself. So the romantic promise that they offer seems so amazing that anything that seems to threaten the connection causes a corresponding spike of anxiety. Now, this is useful from an evolutionary perspective because it makes you seek them more ardently, which makes it more likely that you'll bond and, well, mate. Unfortunately, if limerence persists in a state of uncertainty for too long, the balance shifts and the anxiety begins to overpower any good vibes. And the intensity of the negative feelings also increase. Loss aversion is a very powerful psychological force. We feel much worse about losing something that we have than we feel good about winning a new prize. In fact, prospect theory puts a number to this for economic risk at least, so losing something feels about 2.25 times as painful as gaining the same amount feels pleasurable. And limerence imprints one person as the most desirable reward in your world. So the romantic promise of ecstatic union feels like it's almost in your grasp, but now it's slipping away. Anxiety turns to panic, and the emotional roller coaster of limerence switches from sort of dizzying peaks and sudden dips to disappointing bumps, followed by long, queasy descents. And it gets worse. Sign number 6 is withdrawal pains. As limerence rolls relentlessly on, the accumulating negative symptoms will eventually break through even the most determined attempts at idealization. Our suffering limerent feels more bad than good. It's clearly got out of hand. And there comes a point where they decide enough is enough and they resolve to free themselves, to break contact with their limerent object. Unfortunately, addiction has another nasty trick to play at this point. Withdrawal of the stimulus causes pain. This is a sign of dependence. Your brain has adapted to the state of addiction as the new normal, and any deviation from that by, for example, trying to wean yourself off the source of the addiction feels deeply unpleasant. Anti-reward systems in the brain get activated. Stress hormones spike. Now, these processes involve different neurotransmitters and different brain regions to the runaway excitation of dopamine release. Now the amygdala starts getting involved and it releases neuropeptides like corticotropin releasing factor and dynorphin, which cause negative reinforcement. So abstinence becomes aversive by suppressing the pleasure responses and increasing anxiety. So you're trapped. The addiction is toxic, but escaping it hurts. And that leads into the final sign. Quality of life decreases. The end point for all of these processes is a state where life begins to feel pretty desolate. My life now feels empty, and I'm struggling to remember who I was before this obsession began. And also, if I'm honest, I don't want to let go of the obsession, even after knowing how much damage it has done. I seem to oscillate between intense longing and a sort of flat, defeated indifference. At that point, I was sick and tired of being battered about by my feelings. I was completely wrung out and drained dry. So this is when limerents can neglect other relationships in their lives and neglect themselves. The obsession disrupts appetite and sleep quality, and the intrusive thoughts become intolerable. It feels like a black cloud, a psychic burden that's always with you. And this deterioration in quality of life can also be worsened by feelings of guilt or shame, especially if the limerent is already in a committed relationship and so is keeping their limerence a private and illicit secret. So obviously, this is the real low point. But what can be done to fix things? Well, there's only really one way out of this mess, and that's knowingly, consciously accepting what has happened and making peace with the fact that it's going to hurt to break the habit. It's a sobering realization, and it's demoralizing for sure. But realism is the starting point on the route out of toxic limerence. You're addicted to someone, and you need to reverse the habits and behaviors that led you into that addiction. You need to limit your contact with your limerent object, but in a progressive way so that you reduce your access to the source of the addiction, but also don't suffer the shock of going cold turkey. Now you need to also summon your mental executive back from its holiday and train it to take charge of your limerence recovery project. You need to deprogram yourself out of that altered state of mind. You need to plot a path from where you are to a better, more purposeful future. Now, to find out how to do all of that, check out this video next, in which I explain this method for overcoming limerence step by step.